fuck?
Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. Happy draft day, everybody. We're live on YouTube. Special show today, Sam. We're just talking news and rumors. Just a quick hitter because tonight is the real action. We're live at 7 p.m. for the draft.
Yeah, draft day. So all kinds of news, speculation, rumors. It's wild out there. It's the wild, wild west. And I can't even imagine being inside your brain because you believe all of it. All of it.
That's what we're going to unpack it all right now. We're going to buy or sell all the rumors. I want to know what you think, Sam, because you've got a keen ear to these things. You know a lie. You could spot a lie when you see it, right? You know. So I want you to buy or sell the rumors, and then I'll just say, I buy all of them. They all make sense. Yep. Shedeur Sanders is going number 2. Andy's going to go number 50. It's all going to happen.
I mean, just remember, a couple of months ago, you were 100% sold on the idea of the Titans taking Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter number 1 overall because they made some offhand comment about how we're not going to pass on a blue chip player to draft a quarterback, leaving aside the fact that did not preclude drafting a quarterback. It just meant that should they do so, they were already anointing him a blue chip player in this draft.
Yeah, adjust your mocks accordingly. So anyway, schedule-wise, just to recap, quick hitting show today. Just want to, feed off the buzz, I like to say. Feed off the buzz here that's going on. The draft week rumors. We'll buy or sell, do a quick 20 to 30 minutes here, and then we're live tonight. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're ready to go. Make sure we are your second screen. Give Sam your suggestions, how you want him to dress tonight. I saw the Harry and Lloyd. I do have a Harry tuxedo t-shirt that I could wear. I've got I have the powder blue. So if you could find an orange tux, we could pull that off tonight.
I've got we get the velvet tux jacket. I could wear that. I don't think I have a black t-shirt to go with it, and I'm not sure I have anything else that would make sense either. So that might not work.
We should have done tuxedo t-shirts for sure. So anyway, Sam, let's get into it here. Draft week rumors. Here's the insiders. This is what they're coming up with. This is what I have scoured the internet for these rumors. And I want to know if you're going to buy or sell them. I also want to hear from the chat. What are the best rumors that you've heard this week? But let's start with this one, Sam. Number 1, Shedeur Sanders is falling out of the first round. Are you buying or selling the Shedeur Sanders quote unquote fall out of the first?
I don't think he falls out of the first. I do think now that we're going to see some kind of fall, but I don't think he gets out of the first round. I'm not sure Pittsburgh would pass on him if he slid to their pick at 21. Even if he got past Pittsburgh, I feel like somebody in the bottom of the top of the second round, the quarterback needy teams that passed on him at the top are still needy enough that they would come after him at the bottom of the first.
So I'm gonna buy the fall from the top 10. He's going in the 20s. That's what I think. Steelers at 21. I am buying. We'll see what are these next rumors. I'm buying the trade up world. Browns, Giants, Saints. I'm buying that's happening late first, or Browns or Giants just pick one of these guys early second. I'll say Shedeur Sanders in the 20s, though, tonight. Diana Russini had a statement in her breakdown here. Number 2, this rumor, you buying or selling this one, that the Giants had Shedeur Sanders as QB1 heading into the combine. Do you think that is real or fake? Are they one of the teams that ran into the interview process and said, nope, we're out, no longer QB1?
Maybe I could definitely buy that. I mean, I think a bunch of teams did have him. Like, remember, he opened this whole process as like favored to go number 1 overall. It then very quickly flipped to Cam Ward, and since that point, it's kind of been he's constantly been sliding. Oh, maybe he's not going to go 2 to the Browns. Maybe he won't go 3 to the Giants. Maybe he won't go to the Raiders. They just got Geno Smith. Now maybe the Saints are out. Like we've just sort of been sequentially ticking off teams that might take Shedeur Sanders, and that's what's creating this slide. But yeah, I definitely think that at some point he would have been quarterback 1 on several teams' boards. And whether it's the interview process that turned them off, whether it's, various other things, I could see the Giants being one of them. Remember, like, there's all these pieces of like evidence of, hey, look, he's been wearing Giants cleats, and everything he's been doing for the last year has had Joe Shane and Brian Daboll in attendance. Like, I could believe that. And I can also imagine, he's going to be an unusual character. I'm not going to make determinations on whether it's good or bad because we don't know, but that dude has been raised as Deion Sanders' kid and, anointed as the quarterback, the guy, wherever he's been, basically for the entirety of his life. There's no way that's spitting out a normal kid, right? Relative to whatever your expectations are. He's going to be different, not necessarily worse, not necessarily better, but it's not going to be the regular cookie cutter kid you're getting in these interviews. It's going to be a different guy. He's just had a different experience. So I would imagine that will cut both ways. Some people will love that. He's been primed from this, no pun intended, from an early age. He's ready to go. And I imagine there will be another group of people who go, this kid is an asshole. He's entitled. I don't want any part of it. And if one of those teams is the Giants, I could easily flip from being first on the board to we're not taking him.
It will be interesting because this next one that I'm asking here, if the Giants are presented with this opportunity or the Browns are presented with this opportunity or whoever it may be, the third rumor here that Jaxson Dart is the second QB off the board. And this isn't wild. We had a bunch of bets that came in there saying, hey, Shedur's gonna be QB3. He won't be the second QB off the board. We have some coffee and swag on the line with bets with our listeners here. Are you buying or selling Jaxson Dart as QB2 in the draft?
That's the one I'm selling. Not that I don't think there are teams that would have Jaxson Dart above Shedeur Sanders, but in this world of, there's smoke swirling around Sanders dropping, Jaxson Dart in the first round, Jalen Milroe in the first round, even Tyler Shuck in the first round. Of all of those things, the one I find hardest to understand is Jaxson Dart being drafted really high. I can understand why a team would talk themselves into Jalen Milroe. I can understand why a team would talk themselves into Tyler Shuck. I don't really understand why a team would talk themselves into Jaxson Dart as much. I think a lot of the same deficiencies or the same things that people are turned off by with Shedeur Sanders apply to Jaxson Dart as well. I don't think his tools physically are particularly special. He certainly doesn't have the tool set that Jalen Milroe is bringing to the table. I'm not sure he even has the tool set that Tyler Shuck is bringing to the table. So I don't quite understand. If you're out on Shedeur, I don't really understand why you would gravitate towards Jaxson Dart unless it's simply you're out on Shedeur because he's Deion Sanders' kid.
Yeah, I think I'm buying all of it, right, Sam? I'm buying all of it. Because here's the thing. If the Steelers pass on Shedeur, then we're to the Browns. I mean, the Rams are a wild card, right? But the Browns and Giants at the top of the second, and then the Saints at 40. And that gets me to the next one. Are one of those teams...
Like, hang on, just to wrap ask yourself for a second what their performance would look like if you put Jaxson Dart in that Colorado offense and Shedeur Sanders in that Ole Miss offense, right? I think that would be telling. Like, Jaxson Dart didn't have to deal with certainly not that level of inept pass protection that Shedeur did. And the flip side of that is true. Like, Shedeur, we never got to see Shedeur Sanders. Well, Jackson State. We didn't get to see at Colorado what Shedeur's performance would have looked like in that kind of offense. So I don't think you can just say, wow, Dart's way better than Shedeur. Look at these little bits of data.
I think, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they're kind of similar though, Jaxson Dart.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think their skill sets are quite similar. So I don't understand why, if you're scared off of one, I don't see why that's the other one that you would gravitate towards.
Because we're not saying if Dart's the second for Dart to be the second quarterback off the board, here's the scenario, and it coincides with number 3 here. I'm sorry, number 4. So let's answer that one. The Saints will not take a quarterback at 9, but they will explore one at 40, right? I think it's 40, right? Between the Bears 2 picks there, right around there. So this is, and supposedly, I'm just quoting what the article said this week, quote, hot and heavy on Jaxson Dart. I mean, that's not crazy for a team to come to the Jaxson Dart over Shedeur Sanders conclusion. What do you mean? That's not crazy. So then so here's where I think the world we're looking at is Browns, Giants at the top of the second and the Saints about 10 picks later, and them trying to trade up to get their guy. And if it's the Saints that leapfrog the Browns and Giants, is that for Dart if all those rumors are true?
I didn't say it was crazy for a team to decide that Dart was a better quarterback than Shador. What I think is crazy is the idea that that result ends up with him being the second quarterback off the board. The second quarterback off the board, I think, is going at the bottom of the first round or the top of the second round before pick number 40. So in order to come to the conclusion that that is Jaxson Dart, a team needs to decide Shador isn't a particularly good quarterback. And I don't understand, but Dart is over the guys with better tools. That to me is confusing. I don't understand how that entire holistic thought process can coexist. If you're scared off by Shador, I think you start gravitating towards the quarterbacks with better physical tools in Milroe, in Shuck, not towards Jaxson Dart.
How about this particular rumor with the Saints? This one, Nick Underhill, Jeff Duncan. I mean, a lot of plugged in Saints insiders are basically saying the Saints don't want a QB at 9. They're out on Shedeur Sanders in particular, and they're going to look at quarterback with their second round pick. You buying or selling this as an overall rumor?
Yeah, I mean, I would buy that. I think it's probably not what I would do. Like I would, if I needed a quarterback, I would take the quarterback with my first pick. But if you're running the calculus in New Orleans and you think we can draft, a different player, and then we think our guy's going to be available at 40. All right, like give it a shot by all means. Teams have done certainly crazier things than that in the past, and I get it. I don't think I would do that, but give it a shot. I have more sympathy for that as a concept when it's the Giants and the Browns, because I think it's much more likely that your guy will be available at the very top of the second round, and you can get a blue chip player, with your number 2, number 3 overall. With the Saints at 9 and then 40, neither of those things might be true. Like you might not be getting a blue chip player at 9, and your player might not be there at 40, at which point you've kind of you're not getting the benefit of either part of that equation, and you might lose out entirely. So I think it's a hell of a lot riskier, but it wouldn't blow my mind.
Yeah, this one I'm definitely consuming. I think is absolutely true that this is what's going to happen. Not saying what I would do or not do, but I buy the Saints going O-line or D-line at 9, trenches first, and then I am really interested to see what they do early second. And I am interested to see if Mickey Loomis says we're the team that's going to leapfrog the Browns and the Giants for our QB. And they might all have different – someone might have Milroe as the next guy, Dart, Shuck, who knows, Shedeur. I can't wait to see where that unfolds. I think the drama tonight is going to be picks 20 through 20 and beyond, and teams trading some of tomorrow night's picks maybe to come up and get somebody.
I mean, the Saints are an interesting candidate to trade back into the first round because, theoretically you might need to jump both the Giants and the Browns to get your quarterback. And that's going to be an interest. Like if that's how it plays out, right? They select an offense or a defensive non-quarterback at 9 overall, and then they trade back at the bottom of the first. Minnesota at 24 are an obvious team that wants to get out of there, I would assume. So let's say you trade from 40 up to 24. Like that's going to be an interesting trade calculus to run, like what you had to give up in order to select effectively the player that you took at 9, rather than taking your quarterback at 9 and hanging on till 40 and seeing what was available on the defensive line, on the offensive line, et cetera. And we've been saying, look, there's a drop off at those positions pretty quickly. So I don't think it's going to be as simple as like you gave up this when you could have drafted this guy at 40. It is going to be an interesting trade to balance if that's what materializes.
All right, rumor number 5 we wanted to break down. I do want to go to the chat for some quick hitters. Nothing spicy here, but just an interesting note. I think it was Bert Breer's column. Carson Schwesinger, the linebacker from UCLA, a potential late first-round pick with the Bills or Commanders, may be interested there late first. You buying or selling that Schwesinger to the Bills or Commanders late first?
I would definitely buy that. I mean, when he showed up at the combine with that weight, 240 something at his size and that speed, that I think would have opened up a lot of eyes. Like we were expecting this guy to be like a 220-pound linebacker, suddenly he's doing all that he can do at 20 plus pounds more than that. Like he's prototypical size all of a sudden. That's going to open some eyes. We said it, Jihad Campbell, this whole linebacker class generally, like it's very, very thin. So yeah, I could absolutely see a team saying, Jihad Campbell's gone. Like maybe he went 19-20. He's off the board. Schwesinger's the only other guy that's in this category of like prototypical size, speed, weight, athleticism, and a productive player. And if we don't get him, we might not get another linebacker that can make an impact.
Yeah, with linebacker scarcity, that certainly would not surprise me if he goes in the late first. Kind of like those fits too, Bills or Commanders, especially if there is an edge run. I'd rather each team get a top 5 edge rusher, but if there's a run, and like our mock yesterday had 6 or 7 of those guys come off the board, getting what we would think is maybe the second best linebacker, the consensus second best linebacker in the draft is not a bad way to go for either of those teams. So I'll buy that too. Rumor number 6 is Walter Nolen is, quote, going higher than we think, and potentially the Niners at number 11. I'll add one more piece to this. Greg Rosenthal, friend of the show, John Ledyard, saw some discussion in the Twitter sphere on X that they might have Mason Graham lower than Walter Nolen, that they, those particular people, maybe a little bit lower on Mason Graham. I'm still of the mind that Mason Graham's a top 4, top 5 player in this draft, but might be some other people that have Walter Nolen above him and that he could fall into the teens. I think those are two interesting dynamics kind of working off each other here. So you buy or sell in Walter Nolen going closer to the top 10 than the middle or late first round.
I could certainly buy it. I mean, Walter Nolen's tough because I think he has a really broad range of outcomes, not just in terms of the player that he'll become in the NFL, but where he'll be drafted. I mean, that's been the story on him from very early, that there are teams that have him as a top 10 player in this draft. There are also teams that have him as a second round player in this draft. But it only takes one of those teams who believe he's a top 10 talent to take him really high in the draft. So like the way it's positioned, right? He's going to go higher than we think. I don't know what to think about where he's going to go. He's one of those players where if he got taken in the top 10, it wouldn't blow my mind. But equally, if he was available on day 2, it wouldn't blow my mind. So I don't know if that's buying or selling that. It's, you know what I mean? It's not a take that contradicts anything I think so far.
All right, this one's a little spicier. Showed up at a couple different places. Number 7, Kirk Cousins could go back to Minnesota. One of his landing spots could be the Minnesota Vikings, presumably as a backup to J.J. McCarthy, not competing for a starting spot.
Right.
Buying or selling Cousins to Minnesota?
So I think they're an option for him, but I don't think it'll happen for that reason, right? That it would be as a backup. There's no, like, Cousins has a no trade clause, so he's in charge effectively of where he ends up. And why would he agree to go to a team where the principal aim for him would be backup, whereas he might be able to hang on and wait for an opportunity to start somewhere, right? Like a team might end up without, like Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh, horrible landing spot for Kirk Cousins in terms of old guy with a relative noodle at this point. Don't really want him playing outdoors in Pennsylvania, but nonetheless, right? If he wants to start, these are the teams that may end up being available for him. But if that's his goal, right? I want to start and I don't really care where. You're better off hanging on and waiting and seeing if a team like Pittsburgh comes out of the draft with a quarterback answer, or if Rodgers turns it down or whatever it is, than going, well, okay, backup is as good as I can do right now. Let's go to Minnesota again.
Yeah, I'm selling this one overall as even an option. I think he'd go back up somewhere else. But you're right. I mean, obviously he's going to be looking for a starting spot. If Rodgers doesn't come back and the Steelers don't draft a QB till round 3 or 4, that's obviously a much better option for Cousins. So I don't see this reunion necessarily happening.
I also feel like I doubt he wants to go back to Minnesota, even if it's, you know what I mean? Like, it must be a blow to the ego for a team, however close you were at the time, to like draw a financial line in the sand and say, you're not worth more than this. Right. And then he would be coming back a year later, having proven them correct. Right. He got a starting job somewhere else. Somebody was willing to pay him that money. and he lost it. He bombed his way out of the starting gig, and now he's probably a career backup for the rest of his career. That's a pretty tough pill to swallow from a self, not self-respect. That's not the word. Self-esteem point of view. Like, that's a pretty tough self-esteem pill to swallow, to be like, you said I wasn't worth it. You're right. I wasn't worth it. And now I'm willing to take even less money to come back and be the kid's backup. Like, I don't think like he wants to take that offer.
All right. The last rumor that I wrote down for today, and then I do want to take a couple quick ones from the chat and see if there's anything spicy before we log off until 7 p.m. tonight, you raise your hand. Raise your hand if you're joining us for 7 p.m. tonight for draft night. You're going to be here? All right, I will. Uh-oh. And don't change your camera. But let us know in the chat if you're joining us 7 o'clock tonight. Check the mic. We're live all throughout the night. And then we're going to recap it right after. Quick hitting recap for only 2 hours. So last year, rumors that the Rams were looking to trade up for Brock Bowers ended up with Jared Verse. Kind of like the perils of trading up, right? Bowers would have been nice, but you ended up with Jared Verse, and you also traded up to get Braden Fisk. So I think they're happy with what they got. Rumors that the Rams are looking to trade up for a tight end again. Of course, you've got Tyler Warren. You have Colston Loveland. One of those. Are we buying or selling the Rams being aggressive for a tight end this tonight?
I could buy that if it's not that far a trade. Like, one of the two is going to go early-ish, I think, whether it's the Jets at 7, whether it's the Colts at 14. That leaves the second one on the board, whether it's Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren. Denver's been a popular spot. I mean, the Rams, I think, would have to get to Denver's spot to guarantee them that tight end. So you're trading up 6 spots. They don't have a second-round pick, but they've got multiple other picks they could play with. So, yeah, I mean, I could entertain that kind of jump up for a tight end. I don't know if I would make that move, but if they were able to package some day 3 picks and make that 6-spot jump, I could see that.
Yeah, I'm buying this one too. I can see it, especially where the roster is. They've done such a good job putting resources into both lines that if they want this, auxiliary tight end piece here, I could see that. All right. Any other spicy rumors from the chat before we wrap it up? Again, we're going to go live tonight, 7 p.m. Of course, the draft starts at 8. We're just going to be recapping everything as we go. We'll have some interaction. I want to keep track of some of the bets that were put out there last week. Yeah.
Well, let me pitch to you the idea that one of Jaxson Dart, Jalen Milroe, or Tyler Shuck is going to go in the first round.
I'll sell that. Sell it.
Really?
No, Dart might. I don't think Shuck or Milroe does. I think Dart.
I thought we'd finally found a rumor that Steve wasn't willing to buy.
All of them. Nah, Dart might. But just because I'm trying to balance off how much I buy and sell, we'll sell it. Let's sell it. Because then we get into tomorrow. Thursday into Friday is one of my favorite. It's just like my favorite 20-hour periods of life where you're trying to anticipate what's going to happen in round 2. And everybody's like, everybody wants to trade up to pick 33. And they rarely do. The team usually picks there, but I'm sure there's a lot of discussion. I want it to be the Browns are sitting there thinking about their quarterback decision, as are the Giants. Maybe the Saints have already traded up and gotten their guy, but I'm kind of rooting for that going into tomorrow.
People have it's funny. I think Burt Breer was pushing back in this idea of, hey, teams don't always, or quarterbacks don't always get overdrafted, right? Look at these various years where quarterbacks didn't get drafted high or whatever, right? And I think there are definitely years where like the next guy doesn't get drafted particularly high, but usually the first guy gets overdrafted because ultimately the team that really needs a quarterback just has to take a quarterback, right? Like Kenny Pickett goes in the first round. Everybody else fell in that draft because the other teams didn't desperately need a day 1 starter. And they were like, none of these guys are that good. But the team that needs the day 1 starter has to take the day 1 starter, regardless of how good you think that guy is. So if we thought, I don't think this is the case, but like if we thought collectively that this quarterback crop was nowhere near as good as a usual one, like Cam Ward might slip way down the draft, but the Titans need a quarterback. And they're like, Cam Ward's the number 1 quarterback in this draft. We're taking Cam Ward number 1 overall. So I think so what I'm saying is ultimately Cam Ward's going number 1 overall. I think everyone knows that. But I could see the next group, like Chris Sims said on our show a couple of days ago, I could see the next quarterback not going off the board until the second round, because the teams that are left are looking at this group and going, well, the number one guy's gone. The rest of them aren't that good. We're just going to wait.
It always comes down to scarcity and, desperation from teams, though, right? The top 3 teams drafting last year all had desperate quarterback needs. Now, you could argue the top 3 teams this year, similar boat. But the difference was last year, the Vikings also had one. The Broncos and Raiders also had one. The Raiders ended up losing the musical chairs because the Falcons didn't need a quarterback and took one anyway. But there were 6 teams that it was like Jarrett Stidham and Aiden O'Connell were scheduled to start, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the Browns and Giants at least have contingency plans in place. So the desperation isn't as strong this year. And you could argue, well, that's because they evaluated this QB class and they brought in Russ and Jameis and Flacco and the whole thing, right? So that's why I remember weeks ago, when we were talking about buying and selling rumors, Les Snead, I believe, was on McAfee's show. And I said, this would be the type of rumor that you want to buy into because it's straight from the evaluator saying this year is going to be closer to 2022's class, which was Pickett in the first, and that was it. Closer to 22 than it is last year. He said that 2 months ago, and I think we're starting to get that information becoming more prevalent now.
Well, that I think is a difference between this year and some drafts. Is I think generally teams have done a better job of contingency planning, right? Like insulating themselves from that desperate need of having the Giants in particular. I mean, the Browns, I think you can still argue have a pretty desperate need of quarterback. You do not want to be starting a season with either Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco as your starting quarterback in 2025. And that's currently where they are. So I think you can still argue the Browns have a pretty desperate need. I think you can make the case. Obviously, the Steelers have a desperate need because they don't have anybody effectively. The Giants, though, I think you can say they are in a better position now than teams going into drafts with a desperate, like with, Aiden O'Connell, a quarterback. The combination of Jameis and Russ, it's not great, but either one of those guys could start for you, for a season if you needed it to happen.
Really quick, some of the rumors that have come up. You buying or selling Kelvin Banks to the Raiders at 6? A lot of smoke around Kelvin Banks in particular, not just offensive linemen, but Kelvin Banks.
Could it happen? Sure. Do I think it will? No.
This isn't wild, right? For the entire process until Membu had a great workout at the combine, it was Will Campbell 1, Kelvin Banks 2 at tackle. And every year there are tackles ranked in the teens and mocked in the teens, and then they go in the top 10 every single year, from Jack Conklin to Mike McGlinchey to Paris Johnson. I mean, this just happens. So that doesn't seem wild to me. It doesn't seem wild to put Kelvin Banks over Membu either, even though they would be drafted more of a right tackle than a left tackle unless they're moving on from Colton Miller. So I think it's certainly possible.
Yeah, plausible, but I don't think it's particularly likely or the most.
Rick Cable in the chat. Oh, sorry. Rick Cable in the chat has had some good ones here. This one, he's hearing Josh Connerly to the Bears at 10 as a rumor. Wow. Oregon tackle, Josh Connerly to the Bears. You buying or selling that one?
I mean, that would be shocking to me. Like that again. Just about plausible, I guess. I mean, look, you Mike Tice. Mike Tice thinks he's the best offensive lineman in the draft, and in this draft where all of the top tackle prospects are being talked about as guards, he's one that isn't. I mean, Josh Connerly is being talked about as a tackle. So if you're the Bears and you want to go tackle and you think Josh Connerly is the best tackle in this draft, all of those things align. It would be a massive outlier relative to the consensus at an area of the draft where that probably does make a difference. But it's just about plausible enough to string together, I think.
We have a Broncos tube guarantee that Jaxson Dart goes 9 to the Saints. I do have some emails to catch up on, and we have some emails to catch up on. We have some addendums to our bets. That'd be a good one. Put your name to it. Guarantee Jaxson Dart to the Saints at 9, even though every Saints insider is saying they're not taking a quarterback at 9, that they're going offensive line. If you get that right, it's an aggressive prediction there.
Well, that would definitely be swimming against the tide there in terms of all those Saints reporters being like, not a chance.
Email is checkthemic@the33rdteam.com. Check the mic at the33rdteam.com. If you guys have any last minute bets or predictions, put some coffee or some new mugs. I need a new Yeti. By the way, if you want to do a quick mug check, mine today is went to the coffee shop. Birdies.
Oh. Huh.
I have a beautiful coffee shop just 2 blocks away. 3-minute walk.
This is the same. It's the same Parlor Donuts thing from yesterday. It has been washed. It went
Nice.
through the dishwasher since
that's
that
good.
point.
Is
It's
that
also, I mean, that's
go-to?
quite a. That's well, it's not the new go-to, but it's now there as an option with the free Mint Mobile mug. I also will say that's a very USA branded motif. You know, eagle, scroll thing, stars, and written underneath it is a nice made in China sticker.
just rip that off and look at the eagle instead. Oh, that's great. All right, that's it for us here today. We just want to do a little quick hitter. I love this time of the day as well. The anticipation to Christmas. So again, just to go through everything here, we're gonna go live tonight at 7. If some crazy news breaks, we could always press the live button. We could always go live between now and then. So just be ready. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel here, and make sure you're ready to go. We're going live 7 p.m. tonight. Draft starts at 8. We're going to recap every single pick, react in real time with you. I do want to preface all of this. We will tip picks, and we will announce the pick as soon as we see it on social media. I know that some people don't love that. I would love to know how many people love it and don't, because if we had to change, I'd be willing to, but I don't think there's enough people that hate it for us to change. So we'll tip picks whenever they come out on social.
Yeah. And I also think, I mean, number one, if that bothers you, I would encourage you to try and sort of sync it up, right? Like hit pause on our stream. Yeah. Hit pause on our stream, get yourself to the point. I mean, we'll give you some sort of signal early in the stream, like here's where we are on the TV. And so try and help you sync it up. But the other thing is now with people, there's so many methodologies of watching this, and even watching the TV can be 90 seconds behind the thing happening, right? Like if you're streaming it through your TV, you're probably a minute behind the cable TV. It's just too hard now, right? If you were even trying to do it, we're not going to tip picks until we've seen it. Well, if you're watching on a stream, you're already 90 seconds behind it being out anyway. It's the easiest thing to do is to just say, we'll talk about it when we see it.
Just if that does bother you and you do want our analysis, which I hope you do, just put us on delay. Put us on 5-minute delay if you want, so put us on a little bit of delay. We got some, I have a laminated, it's not the board, but I have my laminated how valuable are the picks chart, laminated that. Nice. Yeah. You want this to, I mean,
send me that. I don't need a laminated version, but send me a digital version of that.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. You gonna come by, pick up your laminations today?
Oh, I hate people don't know. So generally speaking, I've given you a reasonable amount of rides down the years, right? And generally, if I'm in the car, I don't really care where I'm going because you're driving anyway. Like, what difference does it make, house, right? The one exception I make is the road between my house and your house, which is it's like driving through a third world, like Middle Eastern nightmare. It's just potholes and it's like there's been a war going on there, and it's never changed. It's never gotten any better. The one area of the gap between my house and your house that has been resurfaced is literally your street. But everything from my house to your house is a nightmare, and I hate it.
They repaved my street a couple years ago. It's really nice. Anyway, so we're live tonight, all the picks. And then remember, we're going to turn off the stream for a minute and then recap the whole thing. We'll go pick by pick again, a tighter recap of all 32 picks for about 2 hours right after. So we're planning to go from about 7 p.m. till 2 a.m. nonstop right here on Check the Mic. So again, hit the thumbs up for this video, but most importantly, subscribe. Be with us tonight. It's draft day, baby. Sound good? All right. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again tonight. Round 1. Check the mic.